Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 1 Point Safety Show. Thanks for being with us. Yet again, a brilliant week for our podcast. We're going through the roof on numbers, so really appreciate you following, subscribing, and downloading. So I'm joined today, I'm Scott Hartley. I'm joined by my co-host, Scouse Andy. How are you doing, Scouse? Do you have a great Christmas?
Yeah, it was good, man. Yeah, good to meet up with some family and friends, and yeah, it was very nice. How about yourself?
Yeah, it was good, quiet one. Spent it with the children and my wife, which was great, just having the family around. But it's nice just to have that time off work, I think, really, and just have a bit of a rest. But unfortunately, there's no rest for the wicked when we come to Commanderland. So,
It's true that.
yeah, another short podcast this week, or we hope so. So if you're out walking your dog or doing your shopping, download, subscribe, do the usual. We thank you for it. Our numbers, as I said, seem to be going from strength to strength. So we're really lucky.
Thanks,
We've
guys.
been thank you for doing that. We've been lucky enough to you may have seen us around on other podcasts. So shout out to the Burgundy Zone and the Bunker podcast. So thank you for having us on, and the Bleeding Burgundy podcast as well while we're here. So to start us off then, Scouse, 37-20 loss against San Francisco. It'll dropping us down to 7-7-1, and that one is important.
Told you it would be. I told you it would be.
Yeah, you were right.
Told you.
So what do you think of the game then? What were your thoughts initially on the game?
There was good and bad. We held our own for quite some time in that game. Defense held up reasonably well, especially in the first kind of quarter and a half. But when you're leaving the other team basically in our territory when they start their drives near enough all the time. And I think the stat I found was something like 67% of actually the offensive plays for the Niners were actually in our territory.
What a stat that is.
So that is, yeah. So it's a pretty cool stat, but obviously it shows how bad we were, as in like what we were doing. We obviously went for it on fourth down a couple of times, and obviously turnovers, etc., etc. So when you have something like that happen, you're going to get smoked. And that's basically what happened. Our defense couldn't hold out with repetitively being, backed up against their own end zone, basically. So, I expected them to put 30 plus on us. I actually had a bet on it. I put down 30. I put down 34-17. That was my actual bet. Yeah, we would have won $1,000 if that came in. So I'm a bit pissed off with that one. So not far away from that, really, was I? So 3 points either way.
Yeah.
And that's the first team to put 30 on us this season as well. But I had a feeling they would. Yeah. So it's a shame really, because I thought Taylor played quite well, especially first half. Then as you go into it, you're looking middle of the third, he starts to get a bit etchy, a bit sketchy, and then obviously the fourth quarter was just a nightmare where there were too many turnovers and 2 turnovers, and that's just in our territory, and that's just not good enough. And they punished us.
Yeah, I think we'll come on to the another quarterback controversy in Washington. What else is new? But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, we didn't give ourselves much of a shot going into this game as fans. And I'll be perfectly honest, I probably think the coaching staff were exactly the same. You're going up against the number one defense and what, in my opinion, is the number one team in the NFC. I honestly think these could give Philly a go at any stage, and the Cowboys or whoever, Minnesota, the ones with the better records within the league.
The blueprint's there, isn't it? We're the only team to do it, but the blueprint's there, and the fact Niners are probably the best team to do that same type of game. So yeah, definitely.
I think the Ray McCloud, touchdown was a killer. I know that was even. I think that might have even been 7-0 at that point, but the 71-yard run, you can't be giving that up, unfortunately.
Defense-wise, not bad. I mean, you think about I think we only kept McCaffrey to like 4 yards a carry or 3.6 yards a carry. I mean, and that's class, because obviously he's one of the best in the NFL. So it was just obviously those stats kill you. Those ones like that, the 70-yard run. Kittle killing us as well. Another stat was Kittle was 55% of their actual offensive yards was via him. 55%. Wow. And yeah, so if we had a chance to stop him, so if we had, let's say, Cam Curl playing, we'd have had a chance, because he would have got nowhere near that type of numbers.
Yeah, I think Cam Curl was a massive miss. It was a real miss for us. And what's really interesting, I saw a stat again, was we are 1-6 when he's not in the team, and it makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
he is that important, especially when you think about it. You shouldn't be relying on a 7th round pick like that, but we all know he's not a 7th round pick. He's playing like a first rounder.
We got lucky there.
We did. We found a gem. We found a gem.
And don't get me wrong. I mean, that was the last. People go on about like, oh yeah, we're good at late round picks.
It's Kyle Smith, wasn't it?
He was Kyle Smith's last draft, so it wasn't actually our guys at all. And then last season's ones, who do we have in the 7th and the 6th? Well, we did have a 6th rounder, but 7th rounder we got Chris Paul, hasn't played a game. Who's the other 7th rounder? Holmes got smoked when he played. Got smoked when he played. So 5th rounders, Turner done nothing. 5th rounder Howell hasn't played. So you can't really say that this team is actually good in the later rounds. That was on Kyle Smith. We're not good. The Herneys and the Martys are just not good. It's proven. So I'm more concerned. Maybe we hit on our 3rd rounders, tend to hit on our 3rd rounders more than anything. But yeah, with the Herneys the Martys in charge, they're the ones who are killing us, man, and these at lower ends. So I'm concerned, man. I'm concerned for going into this draft anyway. But
be interesting that, because I think we're going to probably end up doing this when the season ends. We'll regrade our. We'll have a look actually, because we had a question from Mike, so it's worth bringing that up actually. Mm-hmm. So thank you, Mike, for reaching out to us on Twitter, and we'll bring that up towards the end at any other business. I'll just quickly run through the stats then. So we had Taylor Heinicke, 13 of 18, 166 yards, 2 TDs and an INT. Carson Wentz came in 12 of 16, 123, 1 TD. B-Rob, 22 carries, 58 yards. Terry McLaurin, 4 for 77 and a TD. Jahan Dotson, 6 carries, 76 for a TD. Samuel, 5 carries, 52 and a TD. And then on the defensive side, you've got Defoe was the highest rater on there with a tackle, 3 tackles, 1 interception. Duron Payne, St. Juice, Smith Williams all got a sack, and Chase Young batted a ball down.
St. Juice got a sack? I didn't see that.
Yeah, he did. I think it's because he ran him out. I don't think it was an actual sack. I think it was classed as a sack.
He was banged up, man, big time. I mean, fair play, he gutted it out, but he was nowhere near ready to play that game, man.
And on the stat sheet, it went down as a sack. So
okay, fair enough.
But I mean, overall, play call-in was pretty abysmal. I thought from the offensive side,
I don't expect anything different, to be fair, anymore. I mean, Scott Turner is what he is. We've seen him for what's this season for him? Is this his 3rd year as well? As coordinator. Yeah. So first season it looked fresh, it looked a little different, it looked pretty good. Second season, shocking, and you blamed it on the quarterback. And this year, same thing again. You know what I mean? So, every bloody week I can call out Scott Turner. Do you know what I mean? He's just shocking, man. I can't wait until he goes.
And do you think it was the O-line was the struggle this week? They obviously can't protect in any way, shape or form.
I mean, that'd be part of my sizzle, to be fair, but it would be the O-line. But
we'll leave it there with that one then, I think.
Yeah, that's fine,
mate. So, overall, not a great day. We obviously didn't give ourselves much of a hope anyway beforehand. And now we've got these 2 games, both at home against the Browns and the Cowboys, to cement our place in the postseason, which is going to be tough. And we'll come on to that a little bit later on. So this moves us quite nicely into the news side of it. So the big news, obviously, out of Washington is that we have now named Carson Wentz as the starter moving forward for the Browns game. Thoughts on changing up at quarterback, Andy? Do you think it was time to do it, or?
Yes and no. I think is the answer, really. I'm not a Taylor Hive guy at all, but I don't care who's quarterback as long as you're winning. You know what I mean? And obviously Taylor was winning. Okay, the last couple of games he hasn't, and that's the reason why they're pulling him. So I can understand why they're pulling him. But I do think about he played pretty well. I thought in that Niners game, he played better than I thought he would. And he played a bit like that. He knew that this was his last game, unless and if he messed up, he was going to be pulled, and he was. But I think it was on the O-line that caused that. To be fair, that fumble, that sack that he couldn't see. Lucas, man, shocking. But anyway, but from from that side. I can understand why Wentz is now back in. They paid 28 million for the dude. Do you know what I mean? And we're meant to now have a better run game than we did when he first played in it early on in the season. So I can understand again why Ron wants to get him back in the team. He wants to prove that he's right. Obviously, that's the vanity side of it and the ego side of it. But the other one is probably that that you'd say he's more explosive. No, I mean he can create more explosive plays, and as not running, I mean by throwing the ball, and I think that's the reason why he can put points up quick. And we've got the receivers to do. We just haven't got the O-line to keep them upright, and that's what I'm worried about going into these last two games or playoff game.
Yeah, there's two things I would garner from that as well in favour of Wentz, and I'm not a Wentz lover or a Heineke lover, and to be perfectly honest with you, I don't think either of these quarterbacks are going to be here next season. What we have obviously talked about ad nauseum, I think, is Taylor Heineke's height, and that he can't necessarily see the plays developing. And we noticed that he holds on.
Sorry, mate. He plays with a lot of He plays with a lot of anticipation, doesn't he? He has to throw, especially over the middle. That's why he doesn't really throw it there too much. Have you noticed that? Mm-hmm. Because he has to try and because you can't see over his line. The line is too big, basically.
And so he has to go to the sides. There's no other option.
Or if he throws it over the middle, it's kind of like an anticipation thing and just hope that the guy's there. Do you know what I mean? So I definitely understand where you're coming from there.
And then we've noticed that, like, you know, I know the flicked ball further out when Wentz was under pressure in the 49ers game. We've seen that Wentz is a bigger guy, so he can step up into the pocket a bit more and give himself a little bit of a less pressure. So if the pressure's coming through from the sides, you've got the opportunity to step up the middle, as long as the pressure's not coming from the middle. You noticed it, and Burrows noticed it, and we were all sat next to each other week one. We saw the catch for Terry McLaurin. You called it. So did Burrows. You said this is a touchdown to Terry off the right-hand side. We saw that exact play, exact drop, exact route for Taylor Heinicke against the Giants in the Giants' first game in MetLife. And it was about 45 yards to the corner for Curtis Samuel. Great play at the time, and we were all excited by it. But when you see it side by side, you can see the difference in the arm talent there. So I agree with you. Wentz can be more explosive and has got a bigger arm, and also, I don't know if you remember a while ago when he was playing for the Eagles, he absolutely threaded a ball into the end zone and it killed us. And I want to see.
Oh yeah, it was a laser, wasn't it?
You know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, right at the edge of the end zone on the
It's plays like that you can get, and I'm hoping that the red zone efficiency is going to be better because again, this drives down to coaching. And play calling, because through between the 20s, we're brilliant. We can get right down. We can control the line of the time of possession. We can put together, 10, 12, 14 plus play drives. We just can't seem to get the ball in the end zone, no matter what we try and do, whether we scheme it up, whether we throw it, run it. It's just not working for whatever reason. And that is holding us back. Taking 3 points every 2 minutes is not something that we can do. We have to score 7, especially against these better sides within the league.
Yeah, because we can't be like, our defense is very good, but you've got to understand that you can't always continually rely on them to keep them to 15, 17 points.
Which, to be fair, they have been doing, but at the same time,
we have a good defense. We have a good defense.
It's elite.
Yeah, it's top. Really I reckon it's a top 5, top 6 defense. I reckon overall, when everyone's fit and everyone's playing, obviously, but like any team, you could say, well, if all our starters were playing, we'd be better as well, and blah blah blah. But we have a good defense. I just don't like what this game came along with Del Rio's soft zone and all that. Again, he went back to his old ways of playing. He was not aggressive, and he caught and eventually it cost us in this game. But on flip side, you mentioned yourself there. It's red zone. Red zone is the killer, man. Thing is, the two major stats you got to look at and how a team wins or loses a game is red zone efficiency and third downs.
Yeah,
they're the two main ones. If you've got a team who's doing really well in those two areas, very, very rare you see them lose. Very rare you see that team lose. But we're crap at both those. No, in general, we are.
We are. Both of them. The other thing as well, Scouts, is you can't rely on your defense to bail you out of games when they're going to be tired. If you're completely going 4 and out every, 3 out, punt every set.
Yeah, or even worse, going for it in 4th and losing it and kind of like our own 35-yard line. Like we did against the Niners. Do you see what I mean?
I think the 2-point try, I wasn't bothered about the 2-point try at the time when it was pinned back. I thought that was a fair enough decision, but the first one going from fourth down, when you're giving them possession inside your 35-yard line, that was a bit, I mean, no Riverboat Ron, but
I mean, the thing is, though, it's like fair enough. If you're going to go for 4th and 1, you don't want to put your smallest QB in there, do you? Who doesn't really do quarterback sneaks. Have you seen him the all season? He doesn't do any quarterback sneaks. So you can see he was hesitant.
And I think we've spoke about this before, and you said 99.9% of times that should work.
Yeah,
that.
But for us, it doesn't work. Because our guy, what you should have done for that, if you're going to do a kind of a sneak or a run play like that, why don't you have B-Rob as the fullback in that position and just give him the actual ball there? If he can't get half a yard, then he shouldn't be on the field. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. Heinicke was very hesitant, and that's what cost us the yard there, really. I don't know where to go, and then he just got hit straight away. When, if you had Wentz in there, even if you just had Wentz in there doing that, just one play, you just put his arm out and he got the yard. Do you see what I mean? So, because he's a lot taller. It just didn't make any sense. It just didn't make any sense from Scott Turner. It felt like that he was trying to set Heinicke up, man. Like I mentioned on previous pods, man. I think he set up Heinicke so bad in this game. And Heinicke actually tried to basically stuck a finger up at Scott Turner and said, I can still do it. Do you know what I mean? But those 2 turnovers, that's what cost him his job, basically.
We've got to mention it. Chase Young's back. He played a lot more snaps than we thought he was going to play. What were your thoughts on Chase's performance?
He played very well. I mean, it felt like he hadn't really missed a beat, really, which is all you can ask for from the guy. He's he had a nice blocked pass. But what I was more impressed with was he was still using his brain as well. Because sometimes as an edge rusher, you just go, oh, you know what, I'm just going to get the quarterback, But there was one play there that Purdy was looking for McCaffrey in the flat as his check down, and Chase read it because he went to rush the quarterback, and then he realized, oh no, I'm going to drop. And he read it, and then Purdy was like, "Oh shit!" And I think he ran it out over the other side of the field, but just shut it down completely. And that's just using his brain, working football brain at the time. So that's nice that been out for 13 months and he could do that and he can read that. That's great to see.
I think you mentioned it on other pods, and you were absolutely spot on with what you were saying. Was that he's bought into the scheme, and it looks like he's doing his own. He's not doing his own thing, going off design, which. I think you mentioned it, and I don't know if you want to mention it now. Is that you saying he was humbled, or you thought the injuries humbled him a bit?
He definitely humbled him. Yeah, I mean, you think about the first season, it was defensive rookie of the year. It was everyone was licking his arse, which is fine because obviously he played well, and he deserved the title of defensive rookie of the year. Second season comes along, and then he starts having this big ego, doesn't listen to the scheme, just does what he wants. And didn't do anything. So he ended up, and then he got injured about 8 games in, wasn't it? Something like that. But he had like 1 sack. He wasn't doing any contain. He wasn't playing to the scheme. So he just kept making our defense look a lot worse than what it should have been. And we played against very good sides that year as well. We had like elite quarterbacks.
Yeah, we did.
That was a punishing schedule. That one. And we needed Young on the ball rather than doing his own thing. And I think Sweat was doing the same thing. Actually, I'm going to call out Sweat on that. Both of them were trying to do their own thing and just kind of left everyone like Allen and Payne was ineffective for most games. But yeah,
I think that's why last season we saw that it looked like we were better without Chase Young. And I think that was because people were bought into the scheme. But when you watch Chase on Saturday, I had to think what day it was then. He did seem to be bought into the scheme and doing what he was asked to do. So, for me, we graded it, I think, on Kyle's pod, and for me, it's a solid B plus. The way he came back, I was really encouraged to see him press off that leg and prove that the knee was there. I mean, we've talked about it on this show. That it's about getting hit on that knee and understanding I can play football. It was a mental hurdle rather than a physical hurdle for Chase Young, in my opinion. And it's great to see him back, and we can have him now firing for these next 2 games, and then beyond if needs be. I mean, he's a born winner. He's going to want to be playing in the postseason, no doubt about it. Then hopefully he goes into the off season, has a healthy off season, and he's raring to go, 100% fit coming into next year, which will be brilliant. We've got a bit of news going on in Washington here. So we've got what you've deemed the hog problem. So I don't know if you want
Okay.
to speak on that. Really, I mean, I've got it up here on our WhatsApp chat group. So looking at this, Dan Snyder and the Washington Commanders are trying to profit out of the organisation of the original Hogs legacy by taking the trademark and associated goodwill with the brand of the original Hogs. The Commanders are using the original Hogs brand for commercial purposes with no compensation. So O-Line Entertainment LLC, as they're called, are suing Dan Snyder, which is Joe Jacoby, Mark May, John Riggins, Fred Dean, and Doc Walker. What do you think of this? Do you think this is just a play because they're using the Hog mascot and they're using the Hogs as a whole? I mean, this Sunday, it's a celebration to the Hogs, I believe is what they're going back, and they've known about this for quite a long time. I'm not here to defend Dan Snyder in any way, shape or form or the organisation, but it just seems like it's one step forward, two steps back every 2 minutes. There's always some sort of off-field drama,
There's
isn't there?
always something, man.
So what are your thoughts on this? Is it a bit of a non-story or?
No, I think it is a bit of a story. I just think it's not as big as everyone was making it out to be, though. You know, at the end of the day, it is a mascot, and it is mostly for the kids, really, more than adults. Now, we don't really, as adults, we don't really care about mascots, being honest. Well, I know I don't anyway. So so from that side of things, I'm not too bothered about it. But I think I understand where the Hogs are coming from. You know, it was their name. It was something that they created together as a unit when they were playing, and they won things. And we still give them a lot of love as well. And this is another thing of, if you're going to flip it on the side of the Commanders themselves, they're going to say, well, this is about love and respect for you, you know. But you've got to. They want pain. That's basically what it is. If the Commanders are making money out of the Hogs name, they want to make it their cut out of it, and that's what I think it is. So, but obviously, Dan Snyder and all the rest of it are going, well, actually, no, we'll just trademark it. Now, the thing is that if you're going to try and sue someone like Dan Snyder, you better be that your case is absolutely airtight, because he will keep you in court for decades. Do you know what I mean? He loves to go to court over somebody and over something. He loves it. So
he's got a lot of money and he's got good lawyers.
He's got a lot of money. He's got big lawyers. Exactly. So he's chilling. Do you know what I mean? But if you're going to do that, it would have been smart to trademark the Hogs name.
Yeah, it would have been.
And they haven't got it. They haven't got the trademark. So that's why you're saying the Commanders are trying to trademark the Hogs. You see what I mean? So if that's the case, then you're going off goodwill and good gestures and all that. The problem is, if you're going to take someone to court, you better be legally sound. And the thing is, the Hogs don't have a leg to stand on legally, even though it is their name and all the rest of it, and the nostalgia of it. And to be fair, I'd like us to keep our past, but at the end of the day, they're there for the handout, and they just want to cause some shit. Personally, I mean, I don't know. I don't really know what the situation. I don't know truly what to think of it. Really, I'm just thinking they want the handout. They want their cut of the new Hogs trademark and everything else. The brand that's going to come off of that starting from this week. And if they don't get it, they'll take them to court or threaten with court anyway. Even though you don't threaten Dan Snyder with court, mate. That's just stupid. You know what I mean?
There's one other bit of news here. Was the bidding process on the team for selling the entirety of the team, as I'm led to believe. I haven't heard anything other from media outlets or social media or anyone tweeting about it. It looks to be confirmed that Dan is trying to sell the team in its entirety, and that the bidding finished. I think it was Tuesday it finished. And it was we haven't heard actually what's happened or who has bid. There's been potentially names put forward for it, but we've heard that the bids have been in excess of 7 billion, which we spoke about on, I think, our second show. We spoke about Dan Snyder and what the bidding would be, and you said it would be in excess of 7, and you said up to potentially 9 billion, if I remember you saying rightly. I think I came out and said you probably need 10 to 11 bill if you're going to include a stadium rebuild. So deep pockets for some people out there to try and buy this team. But we've heard that bids have been in excess of 7 billion. What are your thoughts on that? And do you know anyone that you're looking at in particular to be the new owner?
From the names, we know the usual culprits. You know, you got your Bezos, and you got the Jay-Z partnership and things like that. But there's also one in there that's quite interesting for me. And something I got a little bit of an idea about is John Henry and FSG. That's John Henry's the main principal owner of FSG, basically. But he owns Liverpool Football Club, and I'm a big Liverpool fan as well. So I know all about what he is as an owner, and he's a very good owner. He's really good. He's looking to sell Liverpool for about $5 billion. So I think that's where he's getting most of his dollar from to try and pay for the Commanders. But when he took over us, we were near enough bankrupt. I think we were going out of business in about 3 months. I think if they didn't come in, they bought the club, re-renovated our stadium, which would cost, I think, £300 million, something like that. And then over the last they've owned us for 12 years. And basically they took us from basically us being a top 6, maybe touch a top 4 once in a while, to actually winning the lot. We've won everything under his ownership. We've won the league, the Champions League, the World Club Cup, everything that you could think of. We've won it with him and with them as owners. So they've always given us. They've been very shrewd in investment. Don't get me wrong, but with the amount of money the NFL generates, it's like double, 3 times what even the Premier League generates, and the Premier League generates a lot of money. So for a fact that he's going to use that money effectively, and that he's going to produce a good, solid team and a good culture around the place. So for me, I'd be happy to get John Henry in personally, just from my experience of him being at Liverpool.
So it's from one club to another then. So if he sells Liverpool, you're going to be happy. You're going to be happy.
I think I had the phone call with him. I said, "Hey, John, you know what you should do, mate? You should buy the Commanders." Yeah, you're going to sell Liverpool.
Definitely. Well, we'll have to. I suppose we'll have to wait out and see on that, on who's going to bid for what and how.
There's loads, isn't there? Byron Allen as well, the dude that everyone's thinking that'd be great because he'd be a minority owner, black guy and.
And I think that's who the NFL kind of wanted, because obviously he tried to build and buy the Denver Broncos, which didn't happen. But again, he paid
he offered $4 billion for that.
Yeah,
this is gonna take double that, including the stadium.
Yeah, well, definitely
cost $7.5 billion. It's probably $7.5 billion right now. It's probably the top. That's probably where it's at the moment. So and then you're going to need at least another $1 billion, maybe even more. Because don't forget, I think,
probably 2. I reckon.
Didn't SoFi cost something like $2 to $3 billion?
Was it 1.7 or something like that?
I thought it was more than that, but
it might be more than that. I don't know.
But it's big dollar, man.
And exactly prime real estate as well in DC. The cost of building,
especially if
you
get it in DC. I mean, that's amazing if you get it back in DC.
It would be.
It'd be a loved owner just for that.
I think he would be. Yeah.
Even if he was shite, we would love him just because he got back and playing back in DC.
It would be definitely. So we'll move on then to what we love. It's my favourite segment of the week. It's the point where you get to have a little bit of a rant. It is, everybody, Scouse's sizzle.
Yeah, well, I kind of let slip before what my sizzle was about today with the O-line. The O-line is just absolutely awful. I mean, it comes across like there's no cohesion there. I don't know what's happened to John Matsko either, the actual coach, because we were singing his praises last season, how good he is. He could stick anybody in it and it still worked like a dream. What's happened this year? Well, okay, we've lost some talent, sure. Yeah, we lost Sheriff and Flowers, and that's where the biggest problem stems from. Is the 2 guard positions. I mean, you could talk about, you lost Roulier again, and we're down to our 3rd center. The thing is, why have you got that? Sam Martin. Why have you got him?
Yeah. Zach Martin's brother, isn't it? It's Nick Martin, I think he's called.
Nick Martin. So why have you got this dude who's an actual center, but you're not playing him because what? He can't block? Well, surely he must be okay in blocking. He's been a center his whole life. Whereas you go, no, we'll put Schweitzer in there who can't snap a ball properly, who keeps killing our quarterback with that. It's either too low, too high. It's what are we doing? Why are we bringing this guy? I mean, for me, sack off Trey Turner. He's awful. He is goddamn awful. I don't care if he's playing hurt. If you're playing hurt and you can't produce, get off the field. Do you know what I mean? I understand. Yeah, I praise you. You're hurt and you want to carry on, help your teammates out. But at the end of the day, you start to become a liability if you're injured so much that you can't actually produce on the field. So goodbye. Get rid of him. Get Schweitzer over to right guard. And I'd rather take a chance on him. I'd rather take a chance on Martin as centre, to be honest. At least you know the snaps are going to be good.
Well, I think we saw a couple of games with Martin, and it was a bit unsteady, wasn't it? It was a bit shaky.
Well, he was shaky because he didn't know the protections. Because you just come into the team, like he didn't even. He just rocked up. He was like, "Oh yeah, I was on my dad's couch," and then he ended up being, starting in the game. You're thinking, shit, he didn't know any of the protections, and that was one of the reasons why Leno got beat so easily by Thibodeau in the Giants game, because he called it Leno to come into more shallow, as in like more kind of narrow, and obviously left Thibodeau wide open because Martin's thinking, I need some guy to help me on this dude coming in the front. So again, that was a protection problem. That was an assignment problem more than a Leno problem. But that is still, he's been there now a few weeks now, a few months actually. So he should have learned now the protections, the schemes, all the rest of it. I'd rather play him rather than wear Schweitzer there, honestly. And but I would, the guy to go out there would be sack off Trey Turner. At the end of the day, mate, the offensive line is just not good enough. I mean, even in the run game, normally we say our offensive line, well, it gets the job done on the ground. It's not too bad. Blah blah blah. We average 2.5 yards a carry against. I understand the Lions are good defense. I understand a very good defense, especially against the run. I understand that, but you got to do better than that. Pass pro, we know it's shocking. It's bloody awful. We need better players, man. We need upgrades there massively. And I don't understand why he keeps playing Lucas at right tackle as well. You got Cosby there, who's surely he's 100% fit by now. Why is he still in the game? He should be on the bench as well. I just don't understand. I don't. Who's the guy who's calling it? Is it Ron saying I've got to play these 4 or 5 guys, or is it Scott Turner saying, "Oh, is this the best? This is the best 5 I've got available at this moment." Blah blah blah. Or is it Matsko? And the thing is, though, you don't even know which one it is. Normally, you'd say it's Scott, wouldn't you? You'd say it's on the offensive coordinator, but you don't know what Matsko's telling them.
That's absolutely true. I mean, I think for me, it needs to have 5. I think we'll see 5 brand new linemen next year across the board. I think we have to. I like Chase Roulier. I think he's a great player, but both him,
man.
Yeah, he's 2 major injuries in 2 seasons. Same with Larson, 2 major injuries in 2 seasons.
His record's been pretty good this year.
Solid.
I mean, he's won I think he's won 6 out of 8 games that he's played. Yeah. And you can't argue with that, when he's played the full game, that is. You can't argue with that, even though he is a backup center, though, and he still gets manhandled at times. He's not a great center. He's just solid. That makes sense. He's like he's a great backup to have if he's fit. Do you see what I mean? Same with Roulier. He's a great starter when he's fit. These guys just aren't staying healthy, man.
That's the point. And I think you have to now go out and draft or find in free agency 5 new starters for me. I think you keep a few of them around for as backup pieces. I think Roulier's obviously got a contract, so we've paid him quite handsomely, so he's most likely going to stay around.
I think he's perfect for renegotiation, to be fair, to restructure his deal.
Possibly. Because it's a good shout. And then you've got Cosme. We've got to invest in Cosme because he's a high draft pick and he's good. He is a good player.
Where do you see him playing? Where do you see Cosme playing?
Right guard for me.
You reckon overall right guard eventually?
Yeah, I don't think he's as good as I don't think he's not quite mobile enough or big enough to be a right tackle. And I think when he came out,
he's big though, man. He's like 6'6", and he's big.
Yeah, he's big. He played right tackle throughout college. But I think when he was graded as coming out, people were saying we'll put him inside, and that will be where he would be an all-pro guard rather than a pro. So
basically, another sheriff.
Yeah, I think so.
Sheriff or sheriff, whatever you call him.
Yeah, I think
because he was the same. He was a tackle.
Yeah,
he was a tackle in college, and then obviously we transitioned him to right guard. The thing is,
Schweitzer around as well, because
he's in his last year of his deal.
Okay, interesting.
So and Trey Turner's in his last year of his deal. He only got 1 year deal. Norwell's still got 1 more year on his deal, which I think is a shocker. I don't know why the hell he got him on a 2-year deal for. Absolutely shite.
And we've got to mention Charles Leno as well here. I mean,
he's playing. He's not playing well. He's not playing well at all. I just know through the grapevine he is playing injured, even though there's nothing on the injury report. He's playing with.
I think his wife let slip,
it's a
didn't
bad
he?
shoulder. Yeah. His
I
wife
think
let
his
slip
wife
on Twitter
let
about
slip.
6-7 weeks ago that he's playing really banged up, and he kept saying stuff like, "You don't know what these players are going through when they're not like playing and blah blah blah." So I think he's definitely playing injured. I think it's shoulder, but I'm unsure. And yeah, so I think that's the reason why his levels dropped as well. But again, on the flip side, you want to try, this offensive line's bad, but you've you've had loads of injuries and we mentioned the injuries and that's the reason why it's crap. Okay, well, I understand that. Once you start like losing your premier players and all the other guys are all banged up and injured. I get it, but that's on the roster, isn't it? That's got to be like kind of the next man up mentality. If you're not good enough to produce even that, like I reckon your backup's got to be at least 80% of the starter at the very least, maybe even better if you can. 90% of the actual main starter, as in quality wise, how good you are at actually playing the game. And I think our guys don't. And I think that's the problem. I don't understand where this Chris Paul is as well.
I have no idea. He's
the only guy who's fit. He's the only guy who's healthy on the line, and he doesn't even get suited up. How bad? He must be bad. He must be bad.
If that's the case, he must be. He must be.
Or he said something wrong, or he's pissed somebody off, or something. Because I don't understand it. He's the only guy, and he looked like he got good promise. He looked better than the in college. For most of the games I saw, he looked better than the left tackle, and the left tackle went like first round, I think, or second round.
Yeah.
And this guy I think he went to Dallas. I'm unsure. I think he might have.
Yeah, it's Penn State, wasn't it? He played for Chris Paul, I think. Was it Penn State?
I'm unsure. I don't think it was Penn State. No. I'll Google it now. But to be fair, it's yeah. I mean, it's an
interesting.
I'm just not impressed, mate. Yeah, I'm just not impressed with the.
I'm not impressed either. And as I said before, I think we're going to see 5 new starters. We're going to have to invest heavily in the O-line in the off-season through free agency and through the draft.
He played for Tulsa.
Okay, fair enough. We're going to have to preview this Browns game then coming up. 6-9 Browns in the AFC North, the bottom of the AFC North. Not been playing very well as of recently. Myles Garrett was benched for off-the-field issues that he had in the previous games.
Is he benched this week?
No.
Is he benched this week? No. Well, cheers.
Not at the moment, no. Looking at it, they've got a decent team. I mean, as we just mentioned, we've got Myles Garrett. We've got 2 good receivers in Donovan Peoples-Jones and Amari Cooper, a 2-headed monster at running back in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And obviously, QB position, we can say what we want about Deshaun Watson, but he's not the Deshaun Watson that we saw at the Texans, and it's going to take him a bit of time. I think they're playing this almost like a pre-season, having him back in, getting him back under center, and then looking to next season for him to play well. But yeah, they've got a decent team. They've got a decent team. So it's going to be a tough game.
They should be better than what they are. Their record is not as good as it should be, really, for that kind of talent. So again, do you blame coaching on that? Because that's the same type of thing we've got going on. We've got a lot of talent, and we're only just kind of mid. And we are mid, let's face it. We're not elite, and we're not absolutely god-awful. I know we say like certain parts of the team are shite, which it is, but they're a bit like us, really. I think in that regard, they've got some good players, they've got some good skill guys, they've got the quarterback, which is what we don't have. But obviously, as you know, he's been out of the game for like 18 months, so he's bound to take a long time and a brand new scheme as well, trying to learn the new offense. So it's going to take time, that one, and I'm glad we've got him now rather than next season, because I think he'll destroy us next season. To be fair, this year he's still trying to figure it out, and I think it's a definitely winnable game, and I think we do win this one, to be fair.
I do too. I think we win this one. I think it's a defensive. The defense is going to win us this game. Obviously, we've got to see how Carson Wentz goes as the starter. That's the biggest question mark for me, is where we're going to be with him under center. I think the San Francisco game confirmed that we have an elite wide receiver core in Dotson, Samuel, and Terry McLaurin. With something you can build on for seasons coming. But I think that is right up there.
Well, Samuel's only got 1 year left, by the way. So
I know, dude. So we're going to have to look. We're going to have to look.
We've got some contract problems.
We have got some contract problems.
We've got Sweat on his 5th-year deal this year. Is it, or is that next year? I can't remember.
I think it's the options now next year. Yeah.
So the option next year. So he's on a 1-year deal basically next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got Curl on his last year of his deal.
Holcomb
will be gone this year unless we sign him.
Yeah.
Curl's got 1 more year, as in like an extra
That's
year.
right.
You know what I mean? So, but you don't want to leave him thinking about free agency. You want to throw the money and show the love at him this off season. He's so important to the offense, the defense. We mentioned it earlier. We have to get him signed up long term.
You got to look at Payne as well. I mean, what we're going to do
exactly Payne as well. Payne. Or what are you going to do? You can play the tag. Okay, you play the tag game with him. That's 18.5 mil this year.
Yeah.
So that's the minimum that it's going to cost per year for him.
And then you've got to think about the QB position.
yeah, exactly what you do. Because let's face it, if you want to keep Carson Wentz, you're not going to keep him at his rate. Why? Because you've got no guaranteed money. So he's not going to play on that big deal. To see what I mean? So we're going to say, well, if you play well these last 2 games, we're going to go into Carson Wentz and say, look, mate, we'll keep you, but for like half the price, and he'll go see you later.
Yeah. So we'll look at the injury report then. So we'll go through our injury report first. These are the first lot of did not practice. So we've got John Bostic with a pec. We've got Sadiq Charles out again with concussion. Antonio Gibson with a foot/knee sprain.
He's been struggling with that foot for ages, man.
But now it's a knee as well. He didn't. And Ron Rivera, I listened to his presser afterwards, and he was saying he wouldn't be specific as to whereabouts the injury was. And then he basically said yesterday in the press conference, right, it's knee/foot. He's got both going on at the moment. James Smith-Williams came out of the game with a concussion, and he did not practice too. Chase Young did not practice with an illness yesterday.
Okay, that's interesting.
I'm hoping that he will be okay. Cam Curl was limited with an ankle. Norwell was limited with a shoulder. Benjamin St. Juste limited with an ankle. Shaka Tony limited with an ankle. And Brian Robinson...
How was he injured?
I have no idea. And Brian Robinson was full with a quad. So that was our injury report. And the ones I've picked out from the Browns side, Myles Garrett didn't practice yesterday. Not specific. It was just, I think it was down to disciplinary stuff again. Jedrick Wills, one of the offensive tackles they took in the first round a couple of years back, he did not practice. Again, not specific on what they had. Jadeveon Clowney was limited with concussion. Kareem Hunt with a shoulder has come back as full, so it looks like he will play on Sunday. And then Denzel Ward was also full with a shoulder. So they're getting a few players back healthy. So
Denzel Ward's good, man.
Yeah, and that two is a good corner. And them that two running backs tandem there with Hunt.
The thing is, Chubb. I mean, Nick Chubb is probably the best, probably the number one running back. I think he's better than Henry. I think he's better than Saquon. I don't
think he's as good as Cook for me, but I think Minnesota.
Cook's got fumble problems, man. I think for me, Chubb's the best. But the thing is for us is that we are set up to defend the run on our defense. So that's why I'm not worried about that. But I'm more worried about what Watson can do with us, with his arm. He can run as well, obviously, but I'm talking about kind of what his actual his receiving cause. Like, we're banged up on our secondary. You know, we've got St. Goat injured. We've got Flaming Curl injured, who's all banged up and limited. So there's not going to be 100% playing in this game. And I think, as you mentioned, bro, Peoples-Jones is decent. They've got another couple of guys as well. Cooper, you mentioned.
Yeah, Murray Cooper,
Again, he was a wide receiver one at Dallas. And Dallas was number one offense last year. So shows how good that dude is. And I think that's where we've got to be really on our game there. Because if we let Deshaun get time in the pocket, we'll get killed. Even if he is getting used to the offense, he'll kill us. So
what do you think is the keys to victory here then, Scouse?
Victory there straight away. First one, they got to get pressure to Deshaun. You cannot give him the time in the pocket. You've also got to keep an eye on his legs as well, which is difficult. And we always seem to struggle against QBs who can do that.
Mobile QBs kill us, mate.
Mobile QBs kill us all the time. Yeah, because we've got shocking linebackers. You got the Bostic and you've got the other dude. I think Bostic's Yeah, I think he got Bostic's injured his ankle because he got turned over by Sinkwell that time. Remember, you turned him inside out.
He
broke his ankles, mate. That's what that was. So that was the end of him. And I think and that's the problem with Bostic. It's like he can read it in his mind. He's there, but his body can't do it. And I think that must be so frustrating for him. Must be so frustrating for him. But at the end of the day, mobile quarterbacks kill us. Why? Because if you leave Davis as the spy, you got Mayo or the other dude, you know what I mean? And they're just fucking shite. Do you know what I mean?
They are rubbish.
They should not be in an NFL team. None of them two, Mayo or, you know, I'm just yeah. So that's where I'm worried about it. I'm worried about kind of Deshaun's presence being able to run up the middle, you know, use his legs. And so we've got to limit that. We've definitely got to limit that. We've got to limit, I say, the time he's got in the pocket. But again, that nearly every week is the same things, isn't it? For every quarterback, really, you put pressure on him, he makes more mistakes, and we got to get turnovers. We get the chance to pick it off. We've got to pick it off. We can't afford to drop that pass or anything like that. We've got to play solid football, otherwise we're not going to win this game. Simple as that.
Yeah, it's that old cliche of complementary football on all sides, isn't it? You know, that's what we boil down to for me. And I think we have to score on red zone opportunities. We have to. We simply cannot give up red zone opportunities. If we're in that red zone, we have to punch it in for 7 every single time. Otherwise, we're just not going to win this. I think they know that this is it now. You know, I think the pressure's on. They all want to be there. You're a professional athlete. You're a professional sportsman. You want to do the best that you can possibly do. I think having these 2 games at home and having the Browns at home, you know, and they're not in our conference. They're not playing very well. It bodes well for us to win this game, and I do think we win this game. I'm going to stick my neck out on the line here and say 24-17 win for the Commanders. What are you going with,
I think something similar, to be fair. I do. I think it'll be close all the way through the game, and then I think we'll just take it towards the end. I think that's what will happen. But I'm going to say more like 27-21. That's what I think.
Oh, okay.
So
higher points total this week then.
Higher points. I think we're going to get more points. I think we're going to score more points because we've got Carson Wentz there. I think the key is as well from the keys of victory from an offensive side of things. We have got to protect Carson Wentz when he's throwing the ball. We have to. We've got to do. Even if we've got to do max protect, we've got to do something to keep him upright so we can actually throw the ball. With more than 1 second of time to be able to read three guys' running patterns.
Double teaming, as you've mentioned before.
You've got a double team. Yeah. You've got a double team studs. Garrett, you've got to double team him. You know, he's too good to go one-on-one. Another scheme problem, the tight ends blocking one-on-one against top elite defensive ends doesn't make any sense, man. It doesn't make any sense. We got to sort that out, man. And I think that's a Scott Turner problem again. So he can't afford to leave a Logan Thomas up against Garrett one-on-one.
Or a John Bates, yeah, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, I mean, John Bates is actually a better blocker, but he's regressed. But I think he's regressed because how bad the offensive line is. Last season when he was up against he had Sheriff and the Roulier and Flowers all doing the kind of the protections and all the rest of it. So that helped him a lot because they had experienced vets who were actually good at playing.
I don't think the chip-ins worked either, where you ask the tackle to hit, hit the rush, and then the tight end takes that block over and continues that block. That just hasn't worked either in the scheme. So asking people to chip these edge rushers, it hasn't worked at all. So you're right. You either maul them out the way or you hold as you not hold. That's not what we want to see, obviously, but you hold them to what you can hold them to. If you can get away with your hands a bit higher up, then try and get away with it. But double teaming is probably going to be the answer for Garrett. I don't think they've got much on the other side in Jadeveon Clowney if he does play.
Well, he's banged up, and don't forget this guy was he a number one?
He was elite. He was elite.
He was a number one pick, man, coming out of college. I know he had a bad injury with his knee, and he needed microfracture surgery. I remember that, which obviously took him a long time to get back from. So he's still good. You know what I mean? He's just not great. Like we expect him to be. But to be fair, mate, our offensive line will make anybody look good. To be honest.
Yeah, I agree with you. So we'll move on then to our game of the week. And this week we've chose an NFC South battle, one that has massive playoff implications for the NFC South. It's who's going to win the division. It's Tampa Bay at home to the Carolina Panthers. Tom Brady going up against PJ Walker, I believe, is going to be their starting QB. It might be Sam Darnold. I'm not sure which one it's going to be yet.
Tampa Bay with something because Darnold's a starter since Mayfield left. Yeah.
Yeah, it might. I can't remember, to be honest with you, who
I don't know if
it
he was
was.
injured or not. You're telling PJ Walker.
I know Darnold's won a couple of games there recently.
Yeah, he just started there.
So Panthers are coming up. Panthers are got 6-9 at the minute and have just started to roll into the playoff picture. Playing really well for Steve Wilks at the minute as an interim head coach since Matt Rule was fired. And, you know, they're doing really well. I did not expect that 2-back tandem run that they got last week against the Lions. I fully expected the Lions to go out and absolutely batter the Panthers. And they came out with over 306 yards in running. You know, it absolutely killed the Lions.
I called it. I said Carolina win that game.
Mm-hmm. And Tampa Bay are not very good in run protection. So this could be a really good opportunity for the Panthers. Chuba Hubbard, you know, very good running back, and Deontay Foreman, again, is an extremely good running back as well. And they just killed the Lions last week. They absolutely killed the Lions. And from looking back at the stats from the Tampa Bay game, I mean, they just squeaked past Arizona, I believe. And Arizona had Trace McSorley at quarterback. So not a good game from Tom Brady again, but he just seems to be getting enough done with Leonard Fournette, Mike Evans, and White. You know, the other
back. He's become RB1 there really at the last few weeks because Fournette's not been doing it. So get that, yeah.
So what obviously massive playoff implications here. Tom Brady, can he get into the dance if they win this game? Tampa Bay have won the division with an 8-8 record, which is pretty shocking, to be honest with you. You would not expect
Would he actually win that?
Yeah, I think that's them. I think that's them if they,
because obviously you've got
I think the Panthers are the next next ones down, I believe. Let me Google this one because we obviously, you know, on the fly here doing a bit of Googling. So if you're listening and you're still with us, well done. But yeah, not been a great season for Tom. He's kind of looking mortal, you know, at the moment, and he looks like
he's old.
He probably should have hung it up. Yeah, so you've got here 6-9 Saints. You've got you've got bottom 5-10 Falcons, 6-9 Saints, 6-9 Panthers, and 7-8. Buccaneers. So obviously that would put them to 8-8. So Buccaneers will win the division.
Yeah, if they win the division, if they beat Carolina this week.
Carolina, because Carolina's their next challengers.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. Okay, so for me, I do think Tampa win this one. Actually, I do think they win it.
I think at home. Yeah,
they're at home. Okay, as you mentioned before, Tom Brady's not playing that well, but he's doing just enough to get by. They're not going to do much in the playoffs. Carolina
beat them in Carolina earlier though in the season, which was totally unexpected.
Well, Carolina since Wilks has come back in there, the defense is looking absolutely like, you know, lights out. It's looking really good, and obviously they got a good run game, as you said. So Carolina are set up to beat a Tampa Bay team. They are set up to beat them. Because normally what you do, the keys to beat Tampa Bay normally would be keep Tom Brady off the field, and they can do that. They can do the long drives because of the run games that they've got. But I still think Tampa got too much for them. I think they're at home, as you mentioned before. They've got loads of weapons, and I just think even though their O-line's crap, and it is, they had a few injuries there. They lost Jensen before the season started, which is the center, and he was huge for them. And that was one of the reasons why Tom Brady actually came back out, because to play with Jensen. That's how good Jensen is.
Just didn't like his kids, mate. That's what it was.
Like his wife, just like his wife either.
Well, yeah, exactly.
But yeah. So from my side of things, it's kind of like, you know, I do think Tampa win it. But it will be a tight game though.
I think this will be a really tight game, and I'm you know, if I wasn't watching the Commanders, I'd be really looking forward to watching this game. And for me, I think Tampa Bay just squeak this through, and we do see Tom Brady in the playoffs. So yeah. Only other news, then we'll finish off with any other news. We got a tweet on our podcast here from Mike Allen. So cheers, Mike. Thanks for the question. And he asked, are we better? Are we a better team than we were 3 years ago under Ron? In some cases, we have many better players, but we don't. Do we have a better team? If we did like a pros and cons list for Riverboat Ron, I think the cons might win, is what he's saying. What are your thoughts on that as a team? Do you think we're better than we were under Ron 3 years ago?
I think he's spot on. I think we have got better players. We've definitely got better players than we had 2 years ago. But as you say before, about kind of a team, as in team ethic, team cohesion, there's definitely lacking still. I think the problem is overall. I think it's Ron being too. He's very trusting and very loyal, and I think that's the biggest problem with him and Scott Turner. Scott Turner is not a good coach. He's not a good coach. He's not a good offensive coordinator. And he won't be a good head coach when he eventually gets one of those, because I don't know why people are thinking of him as a new head coach for next season. He's awful. He's genuinely awful. His ego is horrific. But I think that's a big problem. And because obviously Ron is a defensive guy, he just lets the offensive guys just do what they want, basically. He trusts them to get the job done. And Scott Turner's doing I reckon, an F-rated performance over the season. I think he should, with the talent we've got, we should put him 30 points up every week, 28 minimum every week. This offense is that good, as in like player skill position wise, receivers, all the rest of it, running backs. Also, on the flip side, you got to think about the offensive line was better 2 years ago than it is now. So from that side of things, you'd say it's got worse. so you could argue it either way, really. For me, I think there is improvements. I do think it's a better team, a better squad, but still not anywhere near that it needs to be. And there's still a lot more that needs to be done here. It's not a finished article at all.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's still some bits that we need to sort out. I mean, the pure looking at the linebacker position and the way that we have not addressed that in any way, shape, or form. We all knew the linebacker position was one of the key,
and that's on one. That's on one. And on the Martys, and on the Martys as well. Yeah.
And on JDR, both linebackers. And you think surely you'd be able to spot a linebacker. Obviously not. But it's funny. I mean, and that's no shame on Jamin Davis, who's actually played really well. And we knew.
No, you can see the potential there. You can see.
Yeah, of course you can.
You can't teach what he's got, which is pure athleticism.
But we knew it would be one season. We had to give him that first season to get used to the game, to the speed of the game.
And that's the risk you see. When you go first round, you expect him to hit the ground running and be like a leader straight away and be the man. But obviously with him, he just needs to learn the game. He just needs to learn it better, and he's getting better. So
I think obviously we spoke ad nauseum about the offensive line. I think they went out there hoping that they would get the Andrew Norwell Pro Bowler, the Trey Turner perennial Pro Bowler and All Pros. And they were. You can't look that far back. 2 seasons ago, they were doing really well for Jacksonville and the Steelers, respectively, for both of them. And I think they thought, we're going to sign these guys and it's not going to be a big drop-off. And the drop-off's been enormous. So we haven't played well in this group this season. I think Ron has come in and it isn't been about on-field, really, for me. It's about the culture and about the change that he's made off the field and the way that he's able to stand behind the mic and take the pressure off the players. I will, you hear him say, I'll take everything that comes at us as a team. You just do your jobs and play football. And I think we needed that at the time. I don't think there was a better coach to come in to the team at the time to do that role. I think his seat was hot probably towards the start of the season. Now we are in exactly the same position we've been in for the last 2 seasons, where we've won 7 games. And we want to try and punch a ticket to the postseason. It's great to be talking about postseason football, nearly coming into January. I mean, we're on the 29th of December now. We're still talking about 2 games left.
This is what you want as a fan. You want to be saying, I want to be playing in the playoffs. We've got a chance to be in the playoffs. And if you think about it, over the last 2 of Von's tenure, if he gets in the playoffs this year, that's 2 out of 3 seasons he's made the playoffs.
There you go. Yeah.
And even though, yes, it might have 7-9 record when we won the division, doesn't matter. We still got in. You see what I mean? So
And
but again,
I don't think we anyone in their right mind thought that the NFC East was going to be as competitive as it was this year. You know, you've got, if you stopped it today, all 4 teams. Did you really? Okay, well, fair play to you.
I did because of the schedule, because of the teams that we're playing. Last season, we played the top 7 quarterbacks. Like in the NFL, the whole NFL, we played them all. So did they, because they're in the same division as us. See what I mean? This season, we haven't played any real elite quarterback. Have we? I mean, go back to any match we've played this season. Who we played who's purely elite?
Rodgers.
He's on his way out, man.
Yeah, I know.
Who else is pure elite that we've played? Kirk Cousins? No, he's not pure elite. He's top 12, maybe.
Yeah.
Anybody
Trevor
else?
Lawrence could be. But
yeah, but he could be. He's a second year quarterback.
Yeah, I know.
You see what I mean? These guys aren't elite. And this is the thing, even coming into the last 2 games, you got the first elite quarterback, and even then he's been out for 18 months, so he's not going to be at the elite level yet. Yeah. And so we got away with that. And that's the same with the. And don't forget, look at the other teams in our division. They've played the same schedule. They've played the same teams, same divisions. Divisions have been shite. Let's face it. We've gone through who did we play? The Colts division. We basically, all our teams have beat all them. Basically, I think there's only one loss, and that was us. You know,
yes, it was the NFC North and the AFC South.
Yeah, it was all shocking. Both those divisions are crap, aren't they?
Yeah.
Look at those teams there.
7 and 8 Jags
besides Minnesota.
Yeah,
crap. And we should have beat them. And we should
argue, yeah, exactly. And you could argue Minnesota's record as well, because you know, they've had 3 or 4 games where it's overtime, or they've hit a crossbar to win in London. There's lots of games there they could have lost. And they've had the luck. They've had the luck there.
Yeah. And this so when you look at the schedule at the start of the season, this was the first time I thought, look, we're not playing true elite quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. We should win. I said we should win at least 10 games. Now again, we're not going to win 10 games. No,
I had us as 9. I had us winning 9.
You know, but some people were saying 11, 12. Some people were saying that we should get that because of how good the schedule actually is. You know, and even when we took on San Fran, we took on a 3rd stringer.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Okay, we lost. You know, so it just kind of goes to show. It's kind of like, well, I knew the NFC East was going to be the NFC Beast this year. I did. I just thought the Giants would be worse than what they are. That's all I thought. I thought we would be the 3rd team. I thought we would be the 3rd in our division, and Giants would still be near the bottom. But they are better coached than we are. And that's
to go back to Mike's question. I think we're better under Ron than we were 3 years ago. I mean, we gave Jay Gruden 5 years. I think we'll give Ron at least another season. And then obviously it all depends on ownership change. If we get a new owner in, are we going to be in the perennial cycle of blowing it up, rolling it back round? Or do we stick with Ron and, you know, hope that this new ownership in its first year, they push through and say, okay, Ron, you do your football side, we'll do the business side, and you continue with doing what you're doing. But I actually think we might end up with Ron being GM or in the front office somewhere, some sort of player personnel role. Who knows? I think he's the right man to do that. The respect's there. You can see the respect there from the Pro Bowl videos that you see.
Yeah, the players love him, man. The players will.
And that's the other thing is you won't see a single player in the NFL who's coached or been coached by Ron Rivera say a bad word about him. And that for me says everything there is about the man. You know, the integrity's there, the discipline's there.
He's a great leader. That's what he is. He's a great leader.
But you can't make these players play. That's the only thing you can't do.
You've got to do your job. At the end of the day, you can motivate them as much as you can. But at the end of the day, you got to go out there and produce. That's what you're getting paid your millions for, bro. Do you know what I mean? So you got to go out there and produce. And if you don't, then the only thing is that he isn't ruthless.
Yeah.
That's the only thing.
Too loyal. He's a bit too loyal. Look at the Sam Mills. Look at the Sam Mills thing.
Yeah, he wasn't good enough. The defensive line had been saying for years that he's shit. Get rid of him, and he wouldn't up until he was gone for that week when he went to see his dad in going to the Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame, and then and then when he realised how bad he actually was, how good the defense was playing, the line was playing when he wasn't there in training, they realised he had to get rid of him.
And Jeff Skinning has come in and done a decent job, to be fair.
Yeah, and Ryan Kerrigan. You got to give Kerrigan. And I think that might be the reason why Young's playing is bought into it, because he actually respects Kerrigan. Because I remember one of the videos early on in the season, when
was it when Kerrigan was retiring?
No, it was yeah, exactly. When Kerrigan was just around the team for a bit, and then and Young was like, said to him like, look, I said I've respected you since I was like fifth grade or whatever it was. I said, so when he says something, Young's going to listen. Do you know what I mean? And I think he's going to get the best out of him. I think they've done a great job, them too. But yeah, I think there's definitely pros and cons, Mike. There definitely is. I think I'd rather take what he is than what some of the other douchebag head coach that you could get coming in. Let's face it, who are we going to get if we try and get rid of him? Who have you got?
I have no idea.
You're going to get somebody either who's massively inexperienced, because you don't want to deal with all this shit, and they won't be able to handle the heat here, because the media is harsh. And obviously the Dan Snyder crap that keeps coming up. So there's always something new going on, something new in the background that even though it's not really to do with you, you really are, because you get grilled by the media about it all the time. So for me, it's like I stick with Ron Rivera all the way. Ultra respect for the dude. Even carried on playing, even carried on coaching through cancer, man. Do you know what I mean? He could have retired. He could have retired off that. He could have just went, you know what, boys? I don't need this shit. See you later. I don't need the money. I'm loaded. He's been in the NFL for like 15 years as a coach and player. So 20 years even. He doesn't need the money. It's not about the money for him. It's about kind of building something. I know we give him his grief. He's shit. He only wins 7 games. Blah blah blah. Yeah, I mean, okay, he only wins 7 games, but if he was in charge of an actual decent organization, I think he'd do a lot better. I really do.
Well, I think the organisation's on the change and it's on the turn, and I think that we will see.
And that's why you got to give one the chance, ahead. Man.
And you've got to, as you said, you've got to give him the chance. But Mike, great question. Really appreciate you reaching out on social media to us. You can find us on social media. My Twitter is @ScottyH84. Scouse here is ScouseAndy20. I never remember our own Twitter handle. Is it 1.safety4? Is that what we are? Mm-hmm. Yep, perfect. I've got it right this week, which is a miracle. The number 4. But yeah, that's us wrapped up for this week. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed yet, we noticed that 60% of our listeners are not subscribed to the podcast. So please subscribe. We have another foreign country.
It's free. You haven't got to pay.
It's free. Anything. Yeah, we've got another foreign country that's popped up on the list. So whoever's listening in Singapore, thank you very much for listening. We really appreciate you listening in Singapore.
Wow. Worldwide now, bro.
Worldwide, mate. Worldwide. That's where we're going with it. So we'll be back next week to talk about the Browns game and preview the Cowboys game. Thanks again for listening. We appreciate you as always. Stay safe. Have a great Christmas break while you're on. I hope you had a great Christmas and a great New Year. Thanks again, everyone. Take care.
Bye.